the results of the global survey on the implementation of the quality frameworks manual, the roadmap of the future work related to the quality assurance framework and the related manual, and as well as 2 presentations from Iran and Mexico. I'm going to introduce the speakers when the item starts. There's going to be time at the end for questions and answers from the speaker. You're welcome to put any questions in the chat in the meantime, and then we'll pick it out at the end of the presentations. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lucia Barbone. I am the co-chair, together with the colleagues from the Philippines, of the expert group, supported by our colleagues from the UN. And I am from the UK, and I work at the Office for National Statistics for the United Kingdom. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to moderate this event, the side event to the UN Stats Commission. And I'm looking forward to hear our speakers' interventions and as well as your questions at the very end. We can now move. Is there any other technical notices that we need to give related to the management of the meeting? Is the meeting being recorded? The meeting is being recorded, and I think it's also being transcribed. So yeah, by being here, you accept to be part of the recording. You have all been muted to avoid feedback, but you are still able to put anything in the chat, so feel free to add any comments or questions that you might have in the chat. Great. So it's my pleasure to then introduce our first speaker. So we have Mr. Yuxi Zhang, who is has joined the United Nations Statistics Division in 2020, with a role in supporting SDG monitoring, the launch of the Global Network of Data Officers Statisticians, and now working with the United Nations Expert Group on National Quality Assurance Frameworks. So Yuxi, over to you to talk to us about the results of the global survey on the NQAF implementation.
Thank you so much, Lucia. Just want to check if you can see my screen.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. So I'm happy to present the global survey on the implementation of NQAF result based on 121 responses. And I would like to express our gratitude for countries who had responded to the questionnaire. So let's firstly discuss the background of this survey. So the Statistical Commission, at its 52-second session in March 2021, tasked the expert group to conduct a follow-up survey to assess progress in the implementation of national quality assurance frameworks by national statistical systems. An official invitation to fill in the NQAF questionnaire was sent out to all member states and one observer state in August 2022, and the survey was closed by mid-January 2023. The survey result has been included as a background note to the Statistical Commission this year, and we will analyze individual response in more detail with the expert group later. So overall, we have received 121 responses, including 102 written in English, 7 in French, and 12 in Spanish. The overall response rate was about 62%, with the highest response rate in the European region, which is about 81%. So let's move to some general information on NQAF. Globally, there is a 67 implementation rate. This is a notable increase compared with 60% implementation rate in 2017. And of responses who indicated they have NQAF in their countries, about 59% cover entire national statistical system. And here is information for those countries who indicated they have implemented NQAF in their countries. UNSC54 was considered when creating NQAF in about 80% of cases globally. In addition to UNSC54, here's a result of other framework used as a basis for NQAF. So overall, common quality framework of a European statistics system is mostly used as a basis by countries. And here, the chart shows that the reference model used when creating NQAF is usually being adapted with modification to reflect their country situation, except for the Europe region, where most countries adopted the common quality framework of European statistics system, including the European Statistical Code of Practice as is. Additionally, quality principles were included in national statistical legislation in about 89% of cases globally. Regarding quality policies, which are publicly available, most countries have quality policies or statement of NSO's commitment to quality, which are publicly available. The percentages are very high across all regions. And in terms of quality assessment, globally, about 91% of countries conducted a comprehensive quality assessment of their National Statistical Office since 2018. And this is really a good work from countries. And the survey itself collected and compiled all good practices from member states. Among all quality assessment methods, self-assessment is mostly used by countries, followed by external peer review, done by a peer or a team of peers that are independent and from outside of the organization. And about 31% of countries around the globe conducted comprehensive assessment in any individual other producers of official statistics than their NSOs. For generic statistical business process model, or what we call GSBPM, there are about 78% of countries implemented the GSBPM at their NSOs based on the 79 responses to this question. And almost all countries of the European region have implemented the GSBPM. However, the existence of the regional adaptation of earlier version of the GSBPM referred to as a statistical value chain may have impacted the responses of countries of African region in terms of countries not realizing that they already use the GSBPM already. And this year, we have added additional questions on quality assessment on new data sources. The first question is about the administrative data. About 58% of countries globally use special quality assurance frameworks, guidelines, methods, or tools for the quality assessment of administrative data for the production of official statistics. From countries which consider quality assurance for administrative data, special guideline is mostly used to assess the quality of administrative data, while special quality indicators is the least used for the quality assessment of administrative data. And the second question is about the quality assessment of data from other data sources. And globally, about 42% of countries use special quality assurance frameworks, guideline, method, or tools for the quality assessment of data from other data sources used for the production of official statistics. And from countries which consider quality assurance for data from other data sources, special method and tools is mostly used to assess the quality of other data sources, which are about 36%. While special quality indicators are the least used for the quality assessment of other data sources. Now let's move to the analysis result for countries who have not implemented NQAF. Most of countries not having NQAF are planning to implement it, and based on the result, the main reasons why NQAF is not yet implemented are lack of financial and/or human resources, lack of subject matter support, and a lack of training resources. And the biggest demand in terms of assistance required to develop and implement NCAF is workshops or specific advisory services according to the country needs. Additionally, member states require hands-on technical material and guidance technical assistance to design quality assurance instruments and support its implementation and additional financial resources. In the background note submitted to the Statistical Commission this year, we also included the summarized comments received from countries for the expert group as a basis for the future work program. And that's about it about the summary. And in the annex of the background note, we also provided the questionnaire and the list of countries who answered the question. Thank you so much. Back to you, Lucia.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, and it's great to see the impact that apologies that the manual is having and how is it supporting countries across the world in their quality assurance way, and also interesting to see the need for more support going forward, which leads nicely to our next item, who is led by Matthias Reister, who is the Chief of Section at the UN Statistics Division. Matthias has been supporting the expert group on national quality assurance framework since it was re-established in 2017, and is also currently responsible for the statistics division's cross-cutting databases and publications. Matthias, over to you for your presentation. Matthias is going to be giving us an overview of the roadmap for the implementation of the NCAF going forward.
Thank you very much, Lucia, for the introduction. Can you hear me and can you see my presentation?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Yeah. No, thank you very much. So here I just want to give you a brief overview over this roadmap that has been developed by the expert group. So here just some background to this roadmap. So what is the target audience? The target audience is statisticians and managers in government statistical services, meaning in official statistics. What is the objective of this roadmap? It summarizes what you need to know for developing and implementing a national quality assurance framework. Very important question. What is a national quality assurance framework? That's a coherent and holistic system for statistical quality management. And I also like to always emphasize it's really a tool for all working in official statistics. The roadmap that I will be presenting is based on the United Nations National Quality Assurance Frameworks Manual for Official Statistics. So a lot of the contents that I will be presenting, or most of it, draws directly from this manual. The roadmap, as well as the manual itself, was developed by the expert group on national quality assurance frameworks. So before I start introducing the roadmap, important disclaimer. So while presenting the roadmap, in reality, the national implementation in countries will really depend on the respective circumstances. So you need to apply and adjust the roadmap according to your respective situation. It's not meant to be like a one size fits all. You really have to see how it fits into your circumstances. So here I show you an overview of the roadmap. This roadmap has 8 steps. The first 4 steps are about the development of a national quality assurance framework, and the further 4 steps are about implementation. Throughout that process, what is very important, as you can see on the very right side, communication and training and management support are really critical for all the different steps of the implementation and use of this roadmap. Now, in the following, I will introduce those steps individually, however, only briefly. Please, for full details, please access the roadmap at the link provided below. The roadmap has been provided to the Statistical Commission as a background document, and the Statistical Commission will be requested to endorse this roadmap. So now let me briefly go through these various steps. Again, the first 4 steps are about developing a national quality assurance framework. And we heard 40 countries based on our survey, so a third of countries have not yet a national quality assurance framework. So where does it all start? So we are strongly recommending, or that is what also usually happens, to have an initial workshop or a set of workshops with senior and middle management. So what should that workshop do? It should explain the concept of data quality, quality management, quality assurance framework, and especially what does it mean to have a quality assurance framework for official statistics. So while these workshops should cover the basics, so what is very important here right from the onset, to have high-level commitment. So management must be fully on board. Also, we will need basic staff resources. Just conducting such a workshop, even if we hire a consultant, someone needs to liaison with the consultant, bring him in, organize the meeting. So you will need some basic staff resources and some basic time commitment of everybody. The next step, which is very important, is to clarify and establish the purpose, scope, and responsibility for developing the NQAF. Very important to understand the scope, to understand the purpose. So the purpose is always to achieve quality improvements to better meet user needs and to assure the trust in official statistics. This is really the overarching purpose. The purpose is not to implement something for just implementing it sort of just as an exercise. No, the ultimate purpose is always to achieve quality improvements. What are the options for implementation? The implementation of a national quality assurance framework can be done only at a national statistical office, or it can be done at a national statistical office and other producers of official statistics. This is actually the case in 60% of the countries that responded to this question. Or it can be implemented throughout the national statistical system and beyond. Other producers of statistics that are not members of the national statistical system. So it's very important to understand the purpose and to establish the scope, because depending on the scope, you will also need to decide who will be involved. Now the next step is the review of the national legislation, organization, existing quality work, and national experiences. So this is just some very basic work that needs to be conducted. Here, when this step is undertaken, the need to review and maybe change the national statistical legislation and organization may arise. However, I would like to point out that any changes to statistical legislation or organization is usually a multi-year process, and that would run in parallel. So we would not wait until all of those things have been done, all these changes to the statistical legislation that has been identified as needed. We think you need to proceed and continue with the development of your national quality assurance framework and let these other processes run in parallel. So after this preparatory work, then it's really the detailed work that need to be conducted for developing NQAF and also for its adoption. Again, here, you will not be able to be successful unless there is a high-level commitment and there is a good communication. You would typically need to analyze and document the instruments and tools and practices that you are already using in your country. That is really a very important step. Then typically you would, in step 3, you would have identified what reference models are available internationally. And then you would seek to either adopt one of those internationally available quality assurance framework, or you would adapt that internationally available model to your national circumstances. What is also important here at this step, that we understand the timeline. Just the development and adoption of a national quality assurance framework with all the necessary reviews and revisions and involvement of everybody and the subsequent approval, this will take at least 1 year. So we will need to be aware of that, and also again highlighting the need for high-level commitment. It's not something that you do in 2 weeks and then it's finished. No, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes involvement. So these are the steps for the development and adoption of a national quality assurance framework. And now the following 4 steps, they are about implementation. Here, very important, we need to set up appropriate institutional arrangements, appropriate organization that we can implement. Usually, the basic requirement is that we have a quality unit at the National Statistical Office. This quality unit should typically be supported by a quality task force with representatives from different statistical production units. And then now, depending whether it's limited to your National Statistical Office or other producers of official statistics, it will also need to involve representatives of all those other statistical agencies if you want to implement EG-NQAF throughout your national statistical system. If you want to implement your national quality assurance framework throughout your national statistical system, you will also need support from what we call national statistical system-wide bodies, such as a central coordination body or governance body or advisory body or user committee, really depending on your national circumstances. But very clearly, if your national quality assurance framework should be implemented throughout your national statistical system, you need to involve, or bodies need to be involved that have responsibility for this system. Now comes step 6. This is something very concrete. This is a first self-assessment. The self-assessment is a natural starting point for the implementation of a national quality assurance framework, because here we all learn what is included, what it entails, and the objective of self-assessment, of course, is the identification of improvement opportunities, either in the management, coordination, or in the institutional arrangements, or in the statistical processes, or in the statistical outputs. The risk of self-assessment is that they are overly subjective and positive, and maybe also disattached from the actual situation. To mitigate that risk, it is very important to have the appropriate composition of that team that is doing the self-assessment, reflecting staff members from different levels, different statistical domains, and then potentially also to document the self-assessment. These are means to avoid the risk of being subjective and overly positive. Aside from self-assessment, there are also other tools for quality assurance. There are essential tools, or very basic tools. These are quality indicators, quality reports, and user surveys. And then there are also more advanced assessment tools. These are audits and reviews. In some regions, peer reviews are very popular and and also have been proven very effective. However, there is a complete range of reviews and audits that have been undertaken. And actually, if you look at the roadmap, at the information provided in there, you will find references to those various efforts. Also very important, as another tool for improving the quality of your statistics, is the introduction of the generic statistical business process model. In order to improve your output, you need to typically improve your processes. And the generic statistical business process model is a very good tool for exactly doing that. Now we're coming to the final step, which is having the improvement plan and pursuing its implementation. So develop an improvement plan based on your self-assessments, reviews and audits, or additional SWOT analysis. Then address implementation with management, very important to decide who is doing what. And then here one more advice or suggestion, try to catch the low-hanging fruits with quick and visible payoff, such as providing a release calendar to users, publishing output quality indicators, such as relate to timeliness, provide metadata, and provide quality reports to users. These are things that can be done relatively easily across the different statistical domains. That's why we call them low-hanging fruits. Then very important, follow up. Every improvement plan needs appropriate follow-up. And the idea of quality management is really this plan, do, check, act cycle that you constantly, you plan, you do, then you assess, and then you take any action that results from that assessment. Once you finish the cycle, a new cycle starts. Here's some important consideration. Again, the objective is to achieve quality improvements to meet user needs. Also very important resources. You will need at least 2 to 3 employees in your quality unit. And if you also are responsible for the coordination throughout the national statistical system, you will require additional staff. These are some minimum requirements. Some statistical offices, depending on the respective task, will need many more staff, while other statistical offices, which are very small, they will of course have the challenge of having staff exclusively working on quality assurance, which may be very difficult if the office is very small. Again, here, bullet point 3, quality management is a continuous effort. It's an iterative approach. Risks. What is the major risk? Is the lack of support and ownership. We really need high-level commitment, communication, and we need cooperation. Also, 2 more points which we want to point out. What we experienced, what I personally experienced, in many statistical domains and in many statistical offices, the management and the coordination of the national statistical system, that is really a major task. And that countries will find that this is a priority action area. Also, communication and training are core for implementation, and the aim is to create a culture of quality. With this, that completes my short presentation of this roadmap. You will find many more details in the roadmap itself. This was just a brief introduction. With this, back to Lucia. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Matthias. Again, a very interesting presentation, and really appreciated the focus on culture and continuous improvement. And that's why everything needs to be, as you remarked at the beginning, that the roadmap is for to be adapted based on the circumstances and the constraints and the situation, and also the maturity that one is facing in the country. And we can now move to 2 examples from 2 countries on how they have implemented the National Quality Assurance Framework. So first, we're going to hear from our colleagues from Iran. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Zara Najafi, who is Deputy Director General at the Statistical Center for Iran. And so she's Deputy Director General of the Office of Standards Supervision and Assessment of the Statistical Surveys, and has been working on the quality management framework of official statistics for Iran statistical systems. So over to you now. I think you have do you have a presentation that you wanted to share with us? Great, we can see it now. Perfect. Over to you.
Yes, greetings to all. I hope you are having a great day so far. I would like to thank the UNSC and NCAF expert groups for providing me with this opportunity to share experience of the Statistical Center of Iran in implementation of Iran's quality assurance framework. My presentation is divided in 4 main parts, as you see. I would like to give you some background about the improvement of statistical quality in National Statistic Development Program. As we see, the 7th strategy is related to quality, which is as follows. Implementing the quality management system and compliance with the statistical standards in responding to the statistical needs of the users. The issues of quality is discussed in 2 articles of the NSDP. It mentioned in Article 6 and 9 that SCI in cooperation with the statistical units of the other government agencies are obliged to prepare the list of official statistics of Iran, the regulation for the quality of official statistics of Iran, and overall quality management framework of the official statistic for the national statistic system. In Article 6, as you saw, the list of official statistics was mentioned. The first list was approved by High Council of Statistics in 2020, and it will be revised annually. Definition of official statistics are statistics required for the governance and decision-making in the country. They are produced and released by government agencies, and their topics are included in the list of official statistics of Iran that needed for decision-making and planning, produced and disseminated by only one government agency, produced according to the definition, classification, and standard methods by SCI, and is in compliance with the fundamental principles of official statistics. Let's now turn to Iran's experience about establishment and implementation of the quality management framework. In the first step, quality management framework of official statistics for Iran's national statistical system was prepared. This framework was prepared under the supervision of SCI with the participation of experts from the 11 statistical units of the government agencies. The quality framework of Iran is in full compliance with EG-NQAF. After preparing the framework, self-assessment was done by the statistical units of government agencies based on the ICAF at the requirements level and detailed list of elements to be assured. It was done for identifying weaknesses and strengths in the statistical units of government agencies, taking necessary steps toward improving the existing situation based on the recognition stage. In the third step, the issues of quality assessment of the official statistics and awarding the quality certification were put on the agenda. To achieve this goal, regulation of official statistics of Iran was prepared. In the regulation type of the quality certification, organs and terms of reference have been specified. It was approved by the High Council of Statistics in 2021. In this regulation, 3 types of quality certification have been specified. The first type, which is called certification of effort for quality, is valid for 1 year. The second type, which is called certification of commitment to quality, is valid for 2 years, and the highest level of quality, which is called certification of quality assurance, is valid for 3 years. To access the quality of official statistics, an executive structure was formed. This structure consists of body from National Statistics System of Iran. At the highest level is the High Council of Statistics. The second level is Quality Policy Making Council for Official Statistics, which determines the roadmap and general policies and approves the certification for official statistics. The technical committee, which is under the supervision of a quality council, is responsible for preparing draft of regulation, reviewing the documents of organization that applying for certification and advising them to complete the documents. Secretariat of Quality Councils is located in SCI. The workflow for obtaining the quality certification is shown in this slide, which the lack of time we escape and you can see later. And as I said at the previous slides, the first type of certification is effort for quality. In the regulation, 8 objects have been determined to achieve the certification as you see in this table. Each objective covers one or several detailed list of elements to be assured from ICAF. For example, the objective 2 indicate that statistical units of government agency should identify the stakeholders properly. This objective is related to the principle to managing relationship with the data users, data providers, and other stakeholders. There are 27 detailed list of elements to be assured in this principle, which only one detailed list was covered for effort certification. You can see all objectives in this table. This objective are related to the formation quality group in the statistical units of government agency, answering users, preparing metadata, preparing publication calendar, application of standards definition, and confidentiality of official data. It should be emphasized that only 6% of ICAF details list of elements to be assured has been covered in the certification of effort for quality. That's all I have to say about Iran's statistical quality assessment. I would like to thank Mr. Fazeli, the manager of the Office of Standard Supervision and Assessment of Statistical Surveys, and Ms. Saman Qaderi, head of Statistical Quality Assessment Group, and all of my colleagues for their work in the field of statistical quality. 2 documents on regulation related to ICAF has been translated into English and will be sent to UNSC soon. At the end, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I welcome your valuable suggestions, comments, and inquiries. Thanks.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thanks very much for your presentation and for sharing your experience. We'll move on now to the presentation from Mexico, and then we'll collect all the questions and comments at the end. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Nuria Torroja, who is an economist at the National Institute of Statistics and Geography in Mexico, where she works in the Department of Quality Assurance, and she has participated in the creation of the Quality Board and has been responsible for the quality strategy since the beginning. And today we'll share with us the experience on the creation of the strategy and what has been achieved so far. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see the slides?
Well, yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, well, my presentation will focus on the actual quality assurance strategy. We have 2 main things in our strategy. First is the quality policy that is based on the EG-NQAF principles. And then we have the quality management strategy, that is how we will implement all these things. our quality policy is fully based on the EG-NQAF. It was created in 2016. This quality policy was approved by the board, the INEGI's board. And then we have another body that is the quality body that is conformed by all the chief directors, statisticians, no? And since then we have worked with this quality body. And the first thing that we did in 2016 was to implement this assessment based on the checklist and on the EG-NQAF checklist. But we transformed this checklist and we apply it to the statistical process, not to 99 statistical processes. And what we found at that time was that some specific improvements were needed. Some, like, for example, complete the calendar. We had a calendar for the users, but it was not complete. All the methodologies were in our site web, but there were a few processes that didn't have those methodologies. So these were like some specific easy improvements that we could make. And then the other things that we noticed with this assessment were more difficult. Like we found that different practices among similar production methods. We had like poor documentation of the process and very few output assessments. So with this in mind, we established this quality management. It's like our plan, do, check, act version. And what we found is that we had to work first to standardize the process, then have assessments, regular assessments, and have improvements. No, to standardize, we adopted the GSBPM through an internal rule, and we had also and we focused on the evidence system. For each phase of the GSBPM, we defined the evidence that should be made, and then we had a system that all the processes have to fit with their evidence. Then the other thing that we did was to establish quality indicators. We started with the output quality principles. And then in the improvement area, we noticed we had like a bad experience that for some improvements that we did in 2017, I think, that we lost comparability of some information. So we were very sensitive to this loss of comparability. So we created an improvement follow-up system where all the improvements, the process can do their improvements, but they have to document all the pilot tests and statistical output tests. And the other thing that we do to promote the improvement is quality courses. No, nowadays we have 10 courses, and more or less every year we create 2 more or less. All these we report in an annual quality report. This has been a very important thing for us, the annual quality report, because it's where everything is reported, and we can monitor how we are improving in and we are based on the quality principles. And our next steps on this management system is, first, we want to continue to standardize through processes guides. Then the assessment, we want to make the assessment through the process evidence. And then we always have new quality courses. I have here some example of the quality report to give the idea of more or less our indicators. And for example, we created quality indicators for relevance, where we monitor, for example, from 2 perspectives of the relevant. No, what we notice is, first, you have user needs, and one thing that you should monitor is where or which are the non-attended needs. And the other perspective is from the statistical process, that you may be producing information, data that is not used. No, so we have these quality indicators from the user, from the needs. We choose where were the most important needs that we should focus, and we establish that in our country the government produces plans, like secondary government plans that have like national indicators. So the first thing that we wanted to know is in which proportion they use INEGI's data for these national indicators. And then the other thing is the SDGs, that the same. No, we wanted to know in which proportion these SDGs indicators used our information, our data. And then the blue indicators are from the point of view of the statistical process, which are the main uses of this data. And we also analyze which were the most important uses that we thought. And first is to attend legal orders like constitution, laws, international treaties. And the other important uses were for national development. We monitor national indicators, INEGI's strategic indicators, SDGs indicators, general national goals. And then we also monitor the use through the microdata lab at INEGI and at INEGI's web page. All of this we do, we monitor these uses through all the processes that we make every year, like around 90 processes. Then we also have this quality indicator for timeliness, and we also see the difference between the opportunity produced for each process, and we compare it with some national experiences or international best practices, and then we can see which are the processes that are more timeline and which are not so good. No? We also have these quality indicators for accessibility and metadata, and we monitor the percentage of data processes that publish metadata based on international standard. And of course, we have accuracy data indicators that we have some. We report like for administrative data. Here are some of the indicators that we have. There are these, and then we also have quality indicators for surveys for accuracy. And then we also monitor for each survey that we produce. This is another example of how we present these results, and we are monitoring. And the last thing is that we also, in this report, we report the courses that we have and how many trained people we have. And here in INEGI, we have a lot of people working. So our trained people are high in some cases. No, they are courses that are for everybody, but they are other courses that are more specific for some people, no, for more technical courses. So thank you. I hope I give like a whole idea of what we are doing.
Yes, thank you very much. This was a very useful presentation, and great to see your experience in looking at quality and managing quality in Mexico. Great. So we had two very interesting presentations, and we can now look at some of the questions. We have a couple of questions in the chat, which I'm going to address first. And then if you'd like to add more, or if there is any other question, just raise your hand or put that in the chat, and I'll give you the mic. So, Matthias, I've seen that you have addressed one of the questions in the chat. Did you want to kind of address it for the whole of the audience?
Yes, happy to do so. Abarash was asking, the scope of the implementation of a national quality assurance framework. It can be limited to the National Statistical Office. It can cover the entire national statistical system. However, it can also go beyond the national statistical system, covering non-official statistics. Here in the manual, we are clearly saying that non-official statistics should or can be covered as required and needed if they are used for government decision-making. The government has the need that the statistics that it is using has the appropriate quality. And in that case, we should be ready to extend our quality assurance framework to that non-official statistics that are produced by entities that are typically considered outside the national statistical system.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. I think there is also a question for our colleagues in Iran. So addressing this is to Mrs. Zara. the question was, in the presentation you mentioned that you cover only 60% in the certification. So if you can maybe give us a little bit more detail about the certification that you have mentioned. Do we still have Mrs. Najafi on the call? Oh, okay, so the answer has just come through. It's in the chat, so I'm just going to read it out loud. So with regards to the prerequisite of the ICAF and also publishing the ICAF in the NSS.
تکست آره بگید بفهمید
بخونم.
آره بگید I sent the message in the chat box.
I sent a message in the chat box and answered the questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just reading it out loud. So the answer was that we had to take a step-by-step approach. In this regard, the first step, we only cover 6% of the indices, and then you're going to cover the rest in the next steps. Thank you very much. Great. Noria, there is another question. There is a question for Mexico about more information on the GSBPM courses, as there is some interested in those, if that's possible.
Yes, we can share that with you, and just tell me how we can do that. We have these courses. There are online courses. Obviously, they are in Spanish, no? And but we can share with you the link and maybe have some further explanation or something that you need.
Yeah, I think there is a contact email in there. So and Spanish seems to be relevant for the requesters, so that would be great.
Okay.
Great. Thanks very much. Is there any other question? I had a short question for our speakers. So one of the things that we have mentioned, we've discussed before, when looking at the roadmap and looking at how to roll out a quality assurance framework, was this role of the culture and quality as a continuous improvement journey. So how have you been working on this in your own countries? What have you been focusing on when thinking about culture of quality?
For me?
For both of you, so whoever would like to start first.
Okay, like focus on what we have done is these courses. We are focused on training people through many aspects of the quality. And these are, we have some courses about the quality principles. We have some courses about GSBPM. We have some courses, specific courses, more like with quality indicators. And that's how we have managed this culture.
Great, thank you. Thanks. I don't know if Mrs. Najafi wanted to come in on this. Yeah, so she's mentioning that there were several challenges, such of a lack of knowledge on the national quality assurance framework, and lack of human resources.
Can you ask again, please?
The question was like, how have you worked on culture of quality in your organization? So yeah, I think okay, that's great. Thanks very much. There is another question for Mrs. Najafi. So for Iran, what were the challenges that you faced in establishing a quality management framework, and what strategies were employed for successful implementation?
We had several challenges, such as lack of knowledge on the EG-NQAF in organization, especially lack of human resource for implementation the ICAF in organization.
Okay, great. And Mrs. Toroja, how was it in Mexico under the same perspective? What were the major challenges that you faced?
Where the main challenges were internal challenges, and those challenges were that, at least in Mexico, every area produces data with similar methods, but not the same methods, and it has been difficult to assess with the same indicators everything, and that the people see and compare themselves with other areas. I think that was the main challenge that we still are focusing, but it has been some years that these quality reports that we produce every year, so they are more familiar with these reports, and it has improves this kind of standardizing and comparing different areas and methods.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Matthias, please come in.
Yes, so I just noticed that there is one question actually in the chat to Mexico, which is very interesting. How do you measure the accuracy of administrative data?
Okay, we have as indicators, and our main indicators are non-response indicators at different levels. We have like the unit level. We can we monitor the non-response of a whole unit, and then we monitor the non-response in variables inside the data. No, these are the main indicators that we have. Non-response at 3 different levels.
Great. Thank you very much. And sorry that I missed that question in the chat, and thanks, Matthias, for bringing it up. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I think we can probably then move to our closing. So thanks so much to all our speakers. It's been great to see the interest in quality assurance frameworks, and to see that the work that the expert group is supporting so many people across the world in working on the quality assurance framework. And it was very interesting to hear from the experience of Iran and Mexico and their journey in establishing the quality assurance framework and building a quality culture. I think this has been recorded. Yes, Matthias, is the recording gonna be made available online?
Yes, we would like to make it available online. We have to see the exact means, but I think we will have it available on YouTube, and will provide the link to this YouTube recording then on our event website, which we will also sort of link from our main web page. So the meeting will become available.
Great. Thank you. That's great to hear. And so a big thank you to all our speakers, and a big thank you to our audience for participating and for all the questions. And on the webpage that Matthias has mentioned, you can find information about the expert group in case you're interested. And I think we can probably close it down unless there was anything else that we needed to mention before closing.
So maybe Lucia, just the last comment. So
yes, please come in.
Yes, just for everybody's information. So at this year's Statistical Commission, quality assurance frameworks will be on the agenda of this year's commission. It's for discussion and the decision. So we invite all countries to, of course, support, hopefully then, also the efforts of the expert group on national quality assurance framework, which is the group at the United Nations that underpins all that international work here at global level that makes this event possible and also provides all the guidance and information that is available to all countries around the globe. We know that there are very strong regional efforts, but of course it's also very important to have global efforts to bring the different regions together because there are many similarities, there are lots of things to learn. And of course, we want all countries around the world to move ahead and to implement their national quality assurance framework and continue to improve the quality of their official statistics. With this, thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you.
Great, Matthias. We actually have a last-minute question that might probably be for you, Matthias, if that's okay. So what will be is there any specific support of help that countries with less resources might receive for the implementation of the NQAF?
So there's always the possibility to address those requests to the director of the statistics division. That's actually very important and useful because if those interests are not being expressed, then it's very difficult to establish support activities for countries. We may not be able to help you immediately, aside from sort of being able to organize some virtual events, but over time, once we know those requests, then they can be incorporated in our capacity building activities. So please express your requests either directly to me or then I will forward it to the director of the statistics division or write directly to him. He really needs to hear what's the interests and what's the needs of countries.
Great. Thanks, Matthias. That was very, very helpful. Great. Okay, so I think we can now bring it to a close. So thanks again to everyone that participated, and thanks to the speakers. And thanks for your time, and hope to see you at the next event.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.